In the BBC, it used to be easy to teach journalism because you could say, for instance, on BBC One, or for instance, on in the New York Times or whatever. Now they don't read the New York Times. They don't watch BBC One News. They're on social media. They're scrolling on social media the entire time, and so it's very hard to say, here's a benchmark for what you could aim at, right? Here's how to be an aspiring journalist. Look at this publication or this magazine or this radio station. And then the other funny thing was, we thought we were in charge of the world. When I worked on the 6 o'clock news and then what was then the 9 o'clock news, we thought we ran the world. We are the BBC. We know what's happening tonight, and you will sit down and damn well listen, and we'll tell you what's most important and then what's second, and then we'll give you the fairy elephant story at the end. We have lost that control as producers and broadcasters. We've completely lost control of that, to folks like you, basically, who develop your own thing. And if it flies off, and people say, hey, have you heard of this guy or this person or this woman, and it flies off and it becomes popular for whatever reason, and a lot of the time organically. And so I think that's moving along. My only hope is that, we all get older, right? And the demographic of television has always been quite old. So maybe the folks who are scrolling now will still be sitting in front of, EastEnders or something in 30 years' time. They want something a lot slower. But I think that's just so wishful thinking of an old guy.
I originally had that thought as well, like, oh, we're all just going to get a bit older and watch TV. Like, I remember my parents always having the TV on, but I was doing some like research into the whole drop off of entertainment and TV and journalism, because it's almost fascinating from where we grew. Like, whenever I was growing up about it, and something I realized is like people are still watching TV shows, they're still watching what's on TV regularly, but they're not watching it live. They're waiting until it comes up on the streaming platform that's free, and then they're going and watching that while they're watching something else on a different screen. Like, it's almost like TV is now becoming YouTube in a way. Like, it's almost you need to have it and then upload it somewhere for people to just come at their own time. They don't want to watch it live anymore.
Well, when I worked in radio, I worked hard on promotions. I worked at a radio station in Washington, and we had these promotional spots for programs, and they'd say, that's a fascinating documentary on the effects of 13th century Chinese porcelain on post-war Germany, and you can hear it on Sunday night at 5, or whatever. And it's like, I'm saying, I'm the boss here, and I'm saying, do you think people are stopping the car and making a note of this? Are you kidding me? This is no good. What we need is next show after that, tomorrow at this time, something that people can remember, because radio and podcasting are multitasking media. People are doing other stuff, which is one of the great advantages. You don't have to sit down, pay attention to the BBC News for 30 minutes. You can hear it and you can make the coffee, or you can carry on working at your computer while you're listening. And at the point, and if it's good enough broadcasting, good enough podcasting, you don't even realize that you're absorbing the information that you're getting in your ears, and you can take it with you now, as you say. I'm looking forward to watching myself or listening to myself gabbling on here, in a couple of weeks' time in the car or whenever I want to, right? I don't have to wait till 2:45 on a rainy Tuesday, And so that is the great advantage now, is portability, I think, of podcasting and YouTube.
Yeah, I do think that social media has really killed the news in all ways, sort of, because I think of the different apps that are made now specifically for different parts of the news, like the weather apps there. It's on, you can put it on your lock screen, you can put news apps on your lock screen, or I spoke about this with Joseph Setter, who works like big in the corporate world. I've like signed up to this like email service called The Knowledge, and what it does is it takes every big headline in the news in every country that day and breaks it into like 5-word headlines, and it's so easy to digest. You know exactly what's happening, and it's almost like the news couldn't find a way to match the short form, because people could just read what happened in the news, leave it down for a minute, come back to it later, come back to it again before they go to bed, and they don't need to tune in at a certain time. Do you ever think that's maybe the thing that's killed TV in general, is we can walk around now with it wherever we are?
Yeah. You don't have to sit down at the time that they prescribe. You can choose any time, right? And like you said, you can watch half of it. If you get tired, you can go to bed and watch the other half the following day, you know. But I think the biggest problem with social media, I call it, I think the first example of crowdsourcing was the crucifixion, you know, was the crucifixion. It's the intelligence of the mob. And so because they reflect back at you what everybody else thinks, that's a sort of a rolling stone growing moss, if you like. So if you start a rumor on X or one of these platforms that then grows and grows and grows until everybody gets it, you know, and it might be a lot of nonsense, right? And you know, at school we studied the Lancashire witches. There's a bunch of kind of ordinary women who were trying to figure out how to cure colds and coughs and flu and stuff using the plants and the trees around them, you know. And because of the gossip in the village, they were all hung and drowned and murdered and accused of being witches because of the gossip that went around the village. And to me, a lot of social media seems like that only multiplied a billion times.